In this video, we will be talking about animal forms and functions, as well as the characteristics of animals, levels of organization, uh, body planes. I don't think this is plans. Or is it plans? I don't know. Body cavities, embryonic development, and the 4 types of body tissue. Okay, so let's start with animal forms and functions. So for jackrabbit, this is an example. So it has big ears and feet. It has good hearing because it has big ears. And the big ears also serve as radiators. So there is an increase in the blood flow in its ears during hot days. This is in order to dump heat. And on the contrary, if it's during cold nights, the blood flow in the ears basically decreases, and this is intended to preserve heat. So, for the jackrabbit, its ears serve an important role in temperature regulation. Aside from the generic role of helping the organism or basically the animal hear or sense sound. Okay, so for body shape, marine animals are able to adapt in water, to adapt in water. So yeah, let's leave it at that. We have 3 characteristics for animals. They are all multicellular. That means they are composed of more than a single cell. They're not like protists or bacteria that are unicellular organisms. They are eukaryotic and they are heterotrophic. Hetero, what I mean by what it's meant by hetero is it's able to get its food in 2 ways. One is by catching prey or by making food. Let's just search it. Okay, so heterotrophic. Okay, so it's not able to produce its own food, unlike autotrophs or plants. So, yeah, it relies in the food chain. They are basically consumers, not producers. Okay. So, what does it mean to be eukaryotic? I don't exactly remember what this is called, but we have domain eukarya. So yes, one definition, one description of what eukaryotes are is that they have membrane-bound nucleus. I suppose it also includes membrane-bound organelles because at the same time animals are multicellular. That means they have organelles such as the Golgi apparatus, the endoplasmic reticulum, both smooth and rough. Aside from the cytoplasm, which is also present in in unicellular organisms. So they constitute a major group of life forms alongside the 2 groups of prokaryotes, bacteria and archaea. But that's not our focus right now. We're focusing on animals. Bacteria is different. Archaea, I'm not sure. Let's search what archaea is. It's always been familiar. Okay, so technically they're unicellular. Okay. Levels of organization. So we have muscle cell, muscle tissue, organ, and organ system. Let's search for a picture to better visualize it. Okay, this picture is more inclined in the specifics. I think this would do. Okay, so um, the most the most basic unit of life is um, called a cell, and they constitute body tissues, and these tissues constitute organs. These organs constitute body systems. So as you can see here, the heart is associated with the cardiovascular system. Aside from the heart, we have the blood vessels. So that's what it means with the organ system. For organism, the organ systems constitute an organism. An organism has many organ systems. We have the urinary tract, the urinary system, the endocrine system, the lymphatic system, among many others. So yeah, that's for levels of organization. By the way, never mind. For body planes, this is actually something that you learn in um, Introduction to Anatomy. So in this picture, uh, say this is a rabbit. We have descriptions on how to describe like parts. Uh, if you're referring, for instance, to the back of the organism or the animal, posterior is the appropriate word. So uh, posterior vena cava, anterior vena cava, something like that. I'm not sure if it's actually a word, what I just said about the vena cava. It's related to the heart. But yeah, I hope you understood what I mean. Ventral from below, dorsal from above. Sagittal plane, uh, it basically divides the left and right side of the. Wait, this isn't a rabbit. I'm sorry. I think this is a squirrel. I wonder why I kept saying rabbit since earlier. Anyways, transverse plane, it divides the anterior and posterior. Uh, this is the frontal plane. I think transverse is the other side. The one in peach color. Okay. So for body planes, we have no symmetry. One example is porifera. I think these are sponges. Radial symmetry, cnidaria. I think these are, what do you call those? SpongeBob's pet. Snails. Yeah, snails. And bilateral symmetry, we have arthropoda. So basically, I think most of the organisms in this world are categorized under bilateral symmetry. That includes us. We're not radial. Neither are we radial nor asymmetrical. So yeah, bilateral symmetry also applies to humans. Proof. Let me show you. Yeah. This is what I was trying to say. So aside from squirrels, other animals such as a goat. Okay. Let's go to body cavities. So we have acoelomate, pseudocoelomate, and coelomate. Humans fall under this category of body cavities. Pseudocoelomate, I believe this is nematoda, or basically roundworms. For acoelomate, one example is a flatworm or flatworms. These the more formal name for that is platyhelminthes. I think this is the most basic kind of worm. Next is nematoda, and the next is annelida. Annelida, or earthworms. So how do we differentiate the three body cavities? You can just look at the picture. Yeah. So I suppose coalamate is the most complex. Acoalamate is the least complex, is the most basic. And pseudocoalamate is in between those two extremes. And from the prefix pseudo, it has to be this term has to be associated with um, false something. Okay. Let's go to embryonic development. So deuterostomes and protostomes. Uh, this table is already prepared. It's taken from this one. For this deuterostomes, I think this is where we are. We're technically deuterostomes. The the anus develops from the blastophore. That's one important detail to remember. For protostomes, basically mollusks, annelids, arthropods. Arthropods, spiders, uh, tarantulas. Mollusks, seafood basically. And annelids, again, earthworms. They all fall under protostomes. Uh, the mouth develops from the blastophore. What is a blastophore in the first place? It's associated with the term blastula, which is one term that describes, in other words, a fetus um, in the context of a human. But here, uh, it's basically the product of an egg and sperm cell, if I'm not wrong. Okay, so for the cleavage, it is recognized that for deuterostomes, it's radial and indeterminate, and for protostomes, the cleavage is spiral and determinate. For the collium formation, deuterostomes equal enterocoelus. For protostomes, the collium formation is schizocoelus. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say. So, for the last part, the 4 types of body tissue, this is actually my favorite among the other topics. We have 4 types. One is muscle, next is nervous, 3 is epithelial, and 4th is connective. So, literally from the word muscle, it refers to the muscles. So, yeah, muscles, they're involved in basically encasing the skeletal system, the heart, and the blood vessels. So they're all encased in muscle. We have skeletal muscle, the cardiac muscle, and the smooth muscle. For skeletal, we all know that the skeleton is the framework of our body, and in order for it to move, there has to be muscle. So yeah, multiple nuclei. That's one detail that describes it. For cardiac muscle, intercalated discs. I've read this term somewhere. It's associated with it's associated with a disease. But yeah. Cardiac, it's very delicate because we all know that the beating of the heart is an involuntary movement. And yeah, naturally, the cardiac muscle is very important. Without the beating of the heart, there wouldn't be the pumping of blood. So yeah, it can affect the urinary system as they filter the blood, and yeah, circulation could ultimately be compromised. Okay, so smooth muscle, it expands and constricts. Smooth muscle basically is found in delicate organs such as the uterus, the bladder, and the blood vessels. Okay, second type, nervous tissue. So from the word nervous, it's associated with the nervous system, the brain, the spinal cord, and the peripheral nerves. So we have two types of nervous tissue. We have the neurons. They basically transmit the impulse, and glial cells, they offer support. So that's it for nervous system. Epithelial, epithelial tissue. So this is the kind of tissue found in the skin, the largest organ of the body, and the borders between organs. So for cell shape, epithelial tissue has three types: cuboidal, squamous, and columnar. For the layer count, we have simple and stratified. Simple is just one layer. Stratified is stacked layers. Sometimes we have a term called pseudostratified. Uh, Again, from the word pseudo. From the prefix pseudo, it's false. It may appear stratified, but it's actually not. So that example applies to this specific kind of epithelial tissue, pseudostratified, pseudostratified columnar. Okay, so for the fourth type of body tissue, connective, this tissue is found in the bones, the fat cells, the cartilage, the tendons, ligaments, and the blood. Four of the six words I mentioned are associated with the bones, cartilage, tendons, ligaments. Yeah, they're basically attached to bones, and of course blood and fat cells. It's not easy to associate fat cells with connective tissue, but yeah, just know that not the first four, these four, bones, cartilage, tendons, ligaments, are easy to memorize, as well as blood. So fat cells connected to um, being associated with connective tissue, and you're all good to go. There are three categories. We have loose, dense, and specialized. And they all have an extracellular matrix. So yeah, that's it. Fibroblasts. Why did I write that word? Ah, I think these are examples. Chondrocytes, osteoclites, adipocytes. Okay, that's it. Oh yeah, back to epithelial. We have another specific type. It doesn't utilize any keyword from the cell shape and layer count. It's uniquely called transitional. So transitional epithelial tissue is found in the bladder and the urethra exclusively. Basically the urinary system. So going back to the four, let's go to the muscle again. So this is for all body movement. What's the purpose of nervous tissue? It functions in the receipt, processing, and transmission of information. And for epithelial tissue, it covers line organs and cavities. For connective tissue, sparse population of cells scattered through an extracellular matrix. I don't think this detail describes the function of connective tissue. But I might ask, what's the point for the extracellular matrix? Let's search it. The connective tissues, the ECM, okay. Physical scaffolding for the cells. Scaffolding. Basically support, physical support. So tissue density, that's what's provided in the presence of an ECM. repairing damaged tissue. Okay. So I believe it plays an important role, especially if your bones get damaged, uh, whether it's a sprain, a dislocation, or a fracture. It has to be basically the extracellular matrix, or the ECM, has to play an important role in that regard. That's how I understand what's said here. Repairing damaged tissue. Okay. Yeah, basically damaged tissue. It doesn't have to be exclusively because of sprain, fracture, or dislocation. So yeah, that brings an end to this video. Next ones will be about the systems of the body. Well, some of them. Okay. I'm gonna like what I'll be discussing in the next videos. So yeah, that will be it. Thanks for watching.